All right, well, welcome to another episode of the Spurs Takeover. I'm your host, Joe Garcia. And unfortunately, tonight we're going to be talking about a major blowout by the San Antonio Spurs as they get blown out of the water by OKC. The final score 131 to 103. The Spurs now fall to 24 and 32 on the season, while OKC is at 35 and 22, and they are surging. They have won a number of games. One of the few losses that they've had in the second half of this season has been against the San Antonio Spurs. So we're going to go ahead and dive in and talk about this lackluster game. And I can't believe that I have to talk about freaking ass Marco Beninelli. I Why, Marco? Why, man? This dude went ahead and dumped in 13 points on the night on a trash game and trash minutes. He doesn't need to sniff the court anymore, man. Let's sit him on the bench and let's just give the minutes to some of the younger guys. I like that. That's one of the things we're going to touch on too. Let's just talk about that right out of the gate. Hey, here comes Rudy. I told you, Steven. Rudy says, is Steven at the club right now, the strip club right now? I'm telling you, man. It's an inside joke, Rudy. He's doing it on purpose. He's doing it on purpose. He's doing it on purpose. We like to poke fun at Michael De Leon every once in a while. We know how you like Steven's club lighting. But getting back on track here, we got to talk about the younger guys. And I like the fact that they were given some run tonight. We always say, like Jonas was saying before we came on, Spurs Nation here is always emphasizing how the young guns need to get some run. Well, they got some run tonight, and I was happy that they got some run because you know what? They need some experience. Even if it's just trash minutes, whatever they get out there on the court, it's experience for them. Much needed experience. It's good to see them out there. We saw Keldon Johnson out there on the court, so that was a good thing for me to see. I wanted to see him play some minutes, and he got some. So you have that. Yes, the Spurs lost, and they just weren't really in this game from the get go. They try to make it interesting in the first, but then soon after that in the second, the wheels came off. And that was about all she wrote. They couldn't hit it. They couldn't hit their shots. They were horrible on defense, horrible in transition D. You could just tell that this loss, I think, had more to do with maybe them just getting tired. Like Rudy was saying, he just said the same thing right now. He said blowout loss with the young guns. The young guys are playing is better than a blowout with 35-year-old vets. There you go. You have that. I mean, our starting five in tonight's game just wasn't up to par. You look down the board right here. You had LaMarcus Aldridge, who dumped eight points on the night. DeMar DeRozan had 11. Trey Lyles had 8. DeJounte Murray, man, 0 points on the night. Bryn Forbes, 10. You know what? This is the thing that I want to talk about with DeJounte. DeJounte, he just didn't have a very good night. I think that OKC really, put the clamps down on him. Didn't let him get in any type of rhythm. He wasn't knocking down those elbow jumpers as he was, in the last previous games. So they made it a point to focus their defensive prowess on him. And OKC, I think, just did a better job of playing defense against the San Antonio Spurs for the full 4 quarters. San Antonio just couldn't get into rhythm, and they just had nothing but issues on the defensive front, offensive front. This was just a bad game. You could tell. I think everybody could kind of tell that it wasn't going to be long. They just weren't in any rhythm. So with that said, let's go ahead and get your take here, Steven. I mean, what were your thoughts on tonight's blowout loss?
Well, I mean, it's first of all, coming into this post All-Star break, the Spurs could only lose, I believe it was 7 games. He had to go 21-7 in those last 28 games. Obviously, now it's 6. They can only lose 6 more games, and the way they played in Utah to open up the unofficial, not even really second half of the season, but post All-Star schedule season, whatever you want to call it, they look like they could beat any team in the league out there. The way they played in Utah, they blew Utah out, a very good Utah team at home or on the road. Sorry, they blew Utah out. Then they come into OKC and completely just crap the bed. As you said, DeJounte Murray went scoreless, and I feel that this Spurs team often goes as DeJounte goes. We all talk about DeMar DeRozan. We talk about LaMarcus Aldridge, but DeJounte is not someone that not everybody really is paying attention to, and they really should. When DeJounte's on it, the Spurs are usually right in there till the very end. When he struggles or doesn't play well, doesn't shoot the ball well, the Spurs struggle. So there's just a lot of things that went wrong in this game for the Spurs. Obviously, DeMar did not have a good game. LaMarcus didn't have a good game. When Marco Bellinelli and Rudy Gay are your top two players in the game, that tells you all you need to know without even looking at the box score. I mean, that tells you what you need to know, guys. And DeJounte Murray needs to be more consistent. I've said it on this show many times before. I've said it in articles. He needs to be more consistent because when him and Derek White are consistent, the Spurs usually have a better game. But moving forward, the road trip is over.
Thank God. Thank God it's over.
Not the best road trip I've ever seen. They did better than my prediction, which was 1-7. They did a lot better than I thought they were going to do. So that's good, I guess. But now let's see what happens when they come home. But it's just too much inconsistency with this team, guys. I mean, when I saw them in Utah, I was like, yeah, they can make the playoffs. They have a very good shot of making the playoffs. Now I see tonight, I was like, nope, they're not making the playoffs. So who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, this team is not going to sniff the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But let me go ahead and get Jonas's take. But before I do, Jonas, I want to go ahead and tell you something that I was actually putting out there on Twitter during the game. And I'm going to say hello to Maxi. Maxi says hello. Hey, what's up? And shout out to everybody who's watching, Tim Rodriguez and Del Patro, Rudy Campos. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Christopher Campos, Doris Campano Bosco. Thank you guys for watching. Basically, what I was saying is I think at times that DeJounte gets caught up and he kind of defers the ball. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's not like all the time, but I think what he does is he kind of defers the ball to DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge when they're on the court. And I think when he does that, it can affect his game, because he's not looking to score first. He's looking more to get the starters in rhythm. And one DeMar DeRozan, who's been one of the most consistent players for the San Antonio Spurs. And then, they're going to want to try and get LaMarcus going. But when DeJounte is a little bit more assertive and he starts knocking down his shot and he gets himself in rhythm early, he can go ahead and score points. We've seen him do that when DeMar DeRozan's out there on the court, So I'd like to see him do that with a little bit more consistency. In the absence of DeMar DeRozan, when he was not in the game, DeJounte was actually scoring a lot more points. He looked great out there on the court in the absence of DeMar DeRozan for those 2 games when they were resting him due to back spasms. So DeJounte is capable of scoring. I just think it's his mindset is defer first and then look for his shot later. And I just want to see him be a little bit more assertive. And if he has an open look, he has a good shot, at making an easy basket, just take it. I'm sure that's going to help the team just as much as it would for him to defer the ball at times, But I think it's just part of his inexperience at times. And I love him as a player and a point guard. And it's the same issues like we talk about, Jonas. Tony Parker had his share of issues in the beginning, but he was able to rectify those with experience. And on any given season, he would elevate his game a little bit more. I think we're going to see the same thing happen with DeJounte. It's going to just take time. But that's what I was going to ask you about. Have you kind of seen him defer a little bit, or, what's your take on DeJounte?
Well, I don't really think that DeJounte is so much deferring out of feeling of need. I think that he just kind of decides that he wants to. Don't forget, the other night against the Utah Jazz, DeJounte had another great night, 23 points. But one of the biggest things is he has to find that rhythm. He's shooting about a 48% clip before the All-Star break ended. So it really just comes down to making your shots, right? And a little bit more consistency and efficiency there. Driving to the basket more and taking some easier shots to get started. That's what I saw and noticed that he did against Utah. And we did have LaMarcus and DeMar out there for that Utah game. So It does show that it's not total deference. It might be just more of a rhythm thing. And he got into early foul trouble tonight.
Oh, yeah. 2 early fouls.
Definitely. Yeah, that definitely affected what he was able to bring both offensively and defensively. He really definitely calmed that down. He played all the way until the end for the most part, but uh, it's that's really what sticks out for me. I don't think that DeJounte uh, is really deferring. I think he's just trying to maybe get other players involved. Don't forget, like as the season has gone on, our main 2 points, as you mentioned, Joe, of consistency. One is DeMar DeRozan, but you also have LaMarcus Aldridge, another heavy point of consistency. So as the team struggles out of the gate, it's not really surprising to see him try to find those two guys.
Yeah, tonight DeJounte Murray just didn't have a very good game. And as we said, credit to OKC's defense in that regards. But we do need some of our starters to kind of step up. We're already this far in the season to be this inconsistent all the time. If somebody's not scoring or playing up to par, somebody else is going to have to step up their game. And unfortunately tonight, that just didn't happen. And then we look at the bench scoring, and we had Rudy Gay, who hit 14 points on the night. And then he was followed by Marco Benedett's 13. Man, what is that noise, dude? It's like a scratchy noise. Do you all hear that?
No.
I heard like a clipping.
I do hear it.
Yeah, I heard a clipping or a scratching. I'm sorry to interrupt everybody, but yeah, it was annoying. I don't know what it was. But, we need to have some more consistency from our starting five. It all starts and stops with them. The bench at times, they've kind of helped us this season and actually saved our ass sometimes by having very good games. It's just all this consistency is getting very frustrating to watch as a Spurs fan. I know I'm sick and tired of it. And this is just part of the building process. Right now, we're in that rebuilding phase. So we probably won't be good for maybe another 2 to 3 seasons down the line. So the silver lining in all this is, yes, it's not going to be a very good season for us as Spurs fans, but it's good to see that the young guns did get some playing time, and it's good to see if they can continue to get some minutes as the season progresses. You want them to at least get something out of it, because it can build their confidence, and we're going to see them start coming into their own maybe next season. I think Keldon might be ready to be inserted into the lineup next season. I don't think this season, but maybe next season, maybe he can get some playing time, whether it be coming off the bench or something. But I'd like to see him be out there with the team. I think he's ready to contribute, but he still needs some seasoning. So let's go ahead and get your take here on the young guns here, Steven. I mean, what do you think? You got to see them in limited minutes. Do you think that it's a silver lining in this ugly loss that we got to see them get some run?
I mean, yeah, they needed some run for sure. And the thing is, I changed my lights to green because I'm green with envy at what OKC had tonight. I mean, they had a very good team. OKC does on both ends of the floor, and I'm envy because I wish the Spurs had that still. But to answer your question, no, I think it is a good idea that the guys got some run. I don't agree that Keldon Johnson is ready just yet for next season. I do believe that he has a very bright future ahead of him, and he will be a very key part of the Spurs. I guess you'd call it rebuild if you want to call it that. But you're right, Joe. It is getting frustrating to watch these games. When the Spurs are playing, and I know they're playing, and I know I have a game to do, obviously, because I have to cover the game. It feels like a chore where I have to watch it. Like, I don't want to watch it, but I know I have to.
It's like cleaning a toilet. You don't like to do it, but it needs to get done.
Exactly. I mean, it's gotten to that point, and I mean, well, it's not because they're losing. I don't want fans to think, oh, you're not going to watch it because they're losing. No, it has to do with the fact with how they're losing. When you know that they have the tools to maybe not make the playoffs, because I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I will go on the record and say that. But they had the tools to kind of build this team for what they want it to be. But when you constantly go with guys like Bellinelli, Rudy Gay, DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, that is not the future of the Spurs team. The future of the Spurs team is a Derek White, DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson. All those guys are the future of this team. And to see them kind of go away from that is kind of disheartening and kind of frustrating because regardless of who they play, it's going to be the same thing night in and night out. So, yeah, I do agree with you that I was happy to see the guys get some run, the young guys. And once the Spurs are out of playoff contention, which could be anywhere from next week to 2 weeks from now, who knows when that'll be, it would be nice to see those young guys get a longer stay on the court to see what happens for next year. But knowing Pop and how he runs things, I highly doubt that will happen.
Yeah. Let me give a shout out to some people. Gail Yu is watching here on Periscope. Shout out to you, Gail. Anthony Gonzalez, he puts Murray looks like he's trying to do too much at times, but other players he can't. With other players he can look amazing. Gail agrees with that. She also said it's so disappointing tonight. And that's the thing is that I think that's the disappointing part. Like you said, Steven, it's not that the Spurs are losing, it's how they're losing. I have, conversations with Spurs fans during the game, most nights, when the game is on, and they're just hitting my DMs up and telling me, what's wrong with this team, that they're disappointed that they're not playing with any heart, So I get all that, It's like if you're gonna lose, at least go out there and play with some type of energy, play with some heart, and don't try not to get blown out. Make the game interesting. So I think that's what they're looking for. They're missing that stereotypical Spurs defense. They're missing the stereotypical Spurs offense. Excellent ball movement, finding the open man. We don't really get that on a consistent basis. One game we might get it, 2 games we might get it, and then we play against a trash team and we absolutely crap the bed and we get blown out. We beat teams we got no business beating. Other teams that we should just put to bed early, they blow us out of the water. I mean, this team is just too up and down, and it's been an enigma since the beginning of the season, and that's one thing that really frustrates Spurs fans as a whole. They're not used to seeing this team perform this poorly, so they can blame it on everything from the rotations, different lineups they have out there. I mean, I don't think that there is any magic fix to this. We can put out the lineup that Spurs fans are clamoring for. I think the Spurs are still going to underperform and not live up to the expectations. It's one of those things. So let's go ahead and get Jonas's take. What do you think, Jonas?
Well, guys, kind of like DeJounte Murray, for the whole team, it really just comes down to making your baskets. Yeah. And it really felt tonight. I was just catching up earlier this morning. I watched the Jazz game again, right?
Oh, okay.
And you just watched that game, and God, you just felt like you got every right role, at least for the most part. And it looked amazing. And watching this evening's game, it felt like the role was reversed entirely. Tonight we were like Utah, and the Thunder just were making everything, and they made it look very very easy. And
they had a lot of easy buckets too, Jonas, in transition. A lot of alley-oops, dunks,
Right, and kind of, as to my point with DeJounte, is sometimes you just got to come out and get those easy buckets to get started, and eventually, as you build momentum, as you build confidence, and finding your touch throughout the game, it just keeps working for you. But as a team, they shot 30. The Spurs shot 36%. Like that for just in general field goal percentage. That's not 3-point range where they shot 28, but 36%. You can't win and do that. You really can't. And
here's the alarming thing, Jonas. To go ahead and add to that. The Spurs connected on just 38 of their 103 field goal attempts to shoot that 36.9%. They took 103 field goal attempts. OKC only took 87 field goal attempts for the entire game. That's crazy.
Right, and that just comes down to efficiency.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just a point of inconsistency all season, and that's why we're having this up and down roller coaster, guys. And it just plays itself out in every different way. The rotations are a point of blame over the course of this year because those have been inconsistent rotations. Every guy kind of, you don't really know if they're going to bring it every evening, and it just sucks. And I hate to say, kind of like, and I told you so, and I know I've said before so often, that I seem like the crazy guy on the corner, talking about the future, but y'all, like, if we can't just go ahead and swallow this loss tonight, then like you guys said, this is going to be the next 3 years as you retool.
Yep.
You retool. I don't think this is quite a full rebuild, but it is a retool, and this youth is going to need some time. They're really going to need some time, and we're already clamoring and calling to trade our all-stars, which is going to make it even more difficult to watch every night because there won't be anybody to bail them out when they're having a rough evening. Just look at the point in the fourth quarter. It was right before a timeout, and you had Keldon out there, you had Chimezi, DeJounte, and Lonnie was out there with Trey Lyles. We ended up going, when we came back to action, we were down by about 3 points, or about 13 points, or 23 points, or whatever it was. All I know is that within a minute and a half span, we added on 8 points to our deficit, and we approached that 30-point range. Like, that it's not solving any problems. And I've said before, because I have my ear to the G League action covering them for Project Spurs. It's the same thing down there, y'all. They're not playing defense consistently. As a team, they're averaging something like 114 points. So the offensive production, sure, but then you just get into a shooting match with other teams that just have more firepower. Yeah. And if they're more efficient, then they're going to win. And that's where it just seems like every night's a gamble. So, Stephen, where you might have a hard time watching, right? I love it. I have not the fact that we're losing, but the fact that any game, you never know what you're going to get, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
From the standpoint when you're really trying to push for a 1 seed and stuff like that. I told you guys before, my other sports affiliations aren't normally the top teams in their respective sports. So I'm always an underdog and just hoping for any given chance. The Spurs have not been that for me. They've been more the champion, but now they're kind of finding their way into that Kool-Aid or that mix of it could be an amazing game or it could be an awful game. Wait 4 quarters to see, you know. And that's what makes it exciting and hard to watch at the same time.
Yeah. And let me go ahead and read some of these comments here. Pedro Martinez says, "Isn't that weird to say or hear?" He says, "Spurs are losing. I was 15 when we last sucked, and I'm 37, I think," is what he put. Doris Campano Basco says, "They might end up with the 11th spot tonight. That's a possibility." Gail says, "Yes, they did. Embarrassing." Tony Ornella says, "OKC is playing hot. These guys are on fire. Looking forward to next season with the Spurs. #rebuild." Anthony,
#retool, Tony.
Rebuild.
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 This is not a rebuild.
I don't think it's a rebuild either.
Okay.
A rebuild. I will come on here, Joe, and tell you it's a rebuild the day that we get rid of DeJounte Murray. You get rid of DeJounte and you get rid of Lonnie. At that point, it's an entire rebuild. You are starting from scratch. That means the Pop is out the door, and you're just starting from dirt.
Ground zero again. Yeah, I got you.
Right. That's a rebuild.
Yeah. Anthony Gonzalez says, "Is it me or every team this year versus the Spurs just so happen to shoot about 20% better than their career averages?" I'm like, okay. He's just saying. Let's see. Tony Ornales again says, "If DeMar walks next season, that would be a major disappointment if Spurs can't do a sign and trade deal for him to get something out of him." Okay. Let's see what else. Wesley's on here. Wesley Perkins says, "Metu got a facial. That was tough to watch. Keldon was fun to watch. And Diaper Benanelli was hitting shots. Take him out, Pop." And Pedro Martinez says, "Same with me. I don't have top tier." What do you say? He don't have I don't have top tier teams. His Arizona Cardinals and Atlanta Braves. Spurs were my only winners. And Gail says,
I feel for you, Pedro.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Jonas is a Browns fan, so you have that. So he knows a little bit about disappointment.
I'm a Cowboys fan, so you know how that goes.
Yeah, we know about disappointment. If you're a Cowboys fan or a Browns fan, you know about disappointment.
Talk to me, guys, when y'all don't know about the playoffs, okay?
Well, the Cowboys.
Cowboys have been to the playoffs. This isn't a Cowboys show, but the Cowboys have been to the playoffs more recently than the Browns' last appearance in the wild card game some 16, 17 seasons ago. So
That's true.
There you go.
Yeah. There we go.
So we're
Just-
gonna
just
get
to
off
say-
topic talking about football. So we'll try to stick to the Spurs for now. But yeah, like Jonas was saying, it's not a rebuild; it's a retooling year. You know, we like to use the rebuild phase or phrase out there. We're just throwing it out there. But yeah, this team is definitely reloading. Let's put it like that. They're reloading for next season. You know, so seeing the young guns again get some playing time is the only silver lining that we're gonna have in this ugly loss. Really, there was nothing that the Spurs did quite well on any end of the court tonight. It's a good thing that they do return home probably sometime later on in the evening. They'll probably be at the San Antonio airport. I know at times, you know, you had a little gathering of Spurs fans that would go out there to the airport and welcome the team home. I don't know if anybody's still going to do that or not, but it's a nice gesture nonetheless. But the Spurs are going to not have an easier schedule. Once they are back home, they're going to have to get ready for the Dallas Mavericks, which they're going to have that game on Wednesday. And then after that, they're going to play the Magic. Then they play the Pacers, the Hornets, the Nets, the Cavs, the Mavs again, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, and the Grizzlies, and the Pelicans, just to name a few teams that they have coming up for the month of March. So their schedule is going to not be super tough, but they're going to be playing teams that are obviously playing at a higher level than the Spurs are. The Spurs are just, like I said, too inconsistent, and you have some teams that I just named that are really going in, you know, vying for that playoff spot. You know, so you can't really take any of these teams for granted. Again, the Spurs, for whatever reason, especially against this Cavs team as well, man. I don't know what it is, but the Cavs have no business being in the game with the Spurs, but for whatever reason, the Spurs let them in and they make the game interesting. You know, those are games where you're saying that's not going to be a blowout, even though it should be. It's not. Oh, and here we have Tony Ornelas. He says it'll be a rebuild because DeJounte and Lonnie are still learning and they are still dealing with inconsistency. Okay, I get that. And he says they're still dealing with inconsistencies until they are consistent. It'll be called retool. And Gail says, do y'all think Becky should have more input if she doesn't already? Well, that's the thing. I think you had pointed to that, Steven. Maybe Becky's been the one, you know, calling more plays than Spurs fans realize, you know?
Maybe. I mean, she could be. And I mean, should she get more input? I mean, I'm not in her head. I don't know what she's thinking, but just by her look on the bench, she looks frustrated. Tim Duncan looks frustrated, but then again, Timmy has the same look he always has. So I don't know about that. But I mean, you know, the Spurs just look frustrated as a whole. Becky, I think there's speculation that Pop is going to retire. I'm not saying he's going to retire, but there is speculation he's going to retire.
Steven's breaking news. Breaking news.
There is speculation he's going to retire after the Olympics. Don't quote me on that. I'm not saying he's going to retire, but there's just speculation out there. If he does, could Becky be the next coach? I don't know. But I do think she should have more input if she doesn't already. I mean, she's Pop's second or person in command for a reason. I think that she probably does have a lot of say in what happens on the court. We just don't see that because it's not our business to see that. So yeah, I think she does a lot more than meets the eye. Let's just say that.
I like her takes when she talks to the media after games. She's informative, she's well versed, very intelligent, and she's not condescending to the media in any way. They ask her a question, she answers the question. She doesn't play around with the media kind of like the way Pop does, because that's what everybody expects from Pop. You know, hey, we're gonna have to ask him a good question because if not, he's gonna roast us. You know, that's part of the allure with Coach Pop. But Becky's a different individual altogether, and I just think that she's like no nonsense. She sticks to, you know, the points right away. She engages with the media. She talks with them, and they're more willing to ask her questions than, let's say, one Coach Popovich. So I think that would be an interesting turn if she does, in fact, become the new Spurs head coach at some point in time, how that interaction with the media will play out. I think it's going to be a different atmosphere. Let's put it like that, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. But in closing here, let's go ahead and get your final thoughts on this game and the future for the team moving forward, Jonas.
All right, Joe. Really quick, before I get to my answer, I would like to let Anthony Gonzalez, who's watching on Reddit, know that releasing Carroll, there is not another roster spot available. They already filled that with Keldon Johnson with the call-up. Remember, Carroll, in his last days with the Spurs, wasn't even dressing for games. He was behind the bench, and he didn't even make the road trip. So there is not another spot open for the team to make another call-up, per se. They're kind of maxed out at this point. It just depends on who's rotating in and out of street clothes at this moment. But as for the game and the future of the Spurs, y'all, I mean, it's just one of those things that I'm still not counting this team out. I know that the numbers are stacked against us, but again,
so you're telling me there's a chance.
I said this, Joe. I said this since early December when y'all were telling me that the season wasn't going to count for anything and you didn't see playoffs in the future for this. Joe, I'm telling you, man, like until we are mathematically eliminated,
we're almost there. We're almost there.
Which could be soon, but it could be, but it could not be. Right?
Oh,
if there's a chance, there's a chance. And I think that still having it's funny that Frank Riojas Jr. comes in and says that Pop needs to go. I think that as long as you have Pop on that bench, you have an opportunity. You have a chance. He's been there. He brought this team back from the depths of despair last season and kind of helped motivate them, if not anything else, to a 9-game winning streak to make the playoffs. I know that it's not enough for some Spurs fans to just make the playoffs if we're not contending for a championship. I've said it time and time again, though, that as far as playoffs go, in any sport, just make it there and you have an opportunity to win. You obviously have a 0% chance to win the whole thing if you're not even there. Go to the dance, and then you have an opportunity to ask the hottest girl out, and she still might say yes to you, right? The playoffs are a dance, and not everybody gets invited. And in order to have opportunities, you have to get invited first. So the Spurs down this stretch, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of handle call-ups and stuff like that. I think that you should expect to see maybe a Quindary Weatherspoon get a little bit more look. Of course, it is a 2-way contract that he's currently on, but he was only on a 1-year 2-way contract. So this team has to make a decision on him now. Do they decide to call him up and which could, in a sense, show him off a little bit to other NBA teams, or do you kind of keep him in your back pocket and in Austin and just hope that nobody else has been scouting him, trying to take him away from the team? I think that Drew Eubanks, as I said in my recent Project Spurs piece, needs to get another look because, again, he's got his 2-way contract is up at the end of this year. I think that, especially once we become mathematically eliminated, if that happens, then that's when you can really expect to see it. I was really pissed off tonight, guys, to see Pop not really get angry the same way that I saw him in the Utah game. There was a bad defensive sequence in that Utah game where he called a timeout and he kind of gave it looked like either Trey or DeJounte a good lay into. Tonight it was just nothing. He kind of just sat back, watched the game go, and as far as I'm concerned, he conceded about halfway through the third quarter. We lost tonight, guys. Another game on Wednesday. We get to see
Mavericks.
the other Luka. Yep, we get to see the other Luka. Joe, I know you're excited to go get your. I know you're excited to go get your LaMarcus Aldridge bobblehead.
No, hell no.
But just enjoy the run, y'all. Is kind of all I'd have to say, because mathematically, I know, Joe, you were looking at the rest of the season and how it's not the easiest, but it's not the hardest. In fact, it's the 11th easiest schedule down the stretch. They were saying on the TV broadcast, with an opponent record sitting right around 500. So that means that any night's a toss-up, right? That's a 50-50 any given night. So we'll see how it goes.
I like Eric Winchester's comment, by the way. He goes, Browns fans, always cheering until mathematically eliminated. He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Just give me a glimmer of hope, a chance of hope, and I'll write it out. Until then.
Let's see what Tony Ornelas he puts. Jonas is hopeful for the Spurs because he is a Browns fan. He has been suffering for a long time. Jonas, wouldn't you want Tom Brady if the Browns are interested?
That's a conversation for another time. But your short answer there, Tony, is no. I don't want Tom Brady. That's your short answer. At Jark Clonus on Twitter.
Oh,
I'll give it to you again here when Joe asks for handles. But talk to you later.
Oh, Jonas, man. Killing me, brother. All right. So, Steven, in closing here, your final thoughts.
Just kidding. So basically, I think they'll probably be eliminated from the playoffs sooner rather than later if they play like they did tonight. But I mean, overall, I think the Spurs they need consistency in the worst way possible. They're not going to get it this year. Obviously, they're not going to be consistent magically by tomorrow morning when they come home. It's just not going to happen. But I think they just need to kind of get it together. Use these last, 24, 26, 27, or however many games they have left. I don't know. Well, 29, 30, 50. I don't know. How many games they have left? There we go. Close enough. 26 games they have left to kind of build some kind of chemistry or some kind of cohesiveness for next season. Use it to play the young guys. Use it to see, okay, well, let's say that DeMar DeRozan does want out and he does agree to a sign and trade. Start looking at who do you think can fit around this team that you're trying to build. Like who can fit around a Lonnie Walker, DeJounte Murray, Derek White core kind of thing. That's what I think this team really needs to do. Because I mean, as far as trying to make the playoffs, and I'm using the quote from I think it was Jabari Young's piece from CNBC. I think it was the Spurs are quote obsessed with getting that 8th seed. That obsession might have to die because I don't think that's going to happen. So I think that there's still hope, as you said, Jonas. Very small, but there's hope. And but if not, I think the best idea for all of us is start looking forward to next season.
Yeah, just start calling your travel agents and let's find out what Cozumel, Mexico's like, or Cancun, Hawaii. It's going.
Papa's probably preparing right now for the Olympics. Mentally, he's probably in his head right now trying to get his roster down for the Olympics. I honestly don't even think he's really focusing much on this season anymore. Because as you said, Jonas, you didn't seem to get angry today. So
yeah, I think even he's already done, dude. He's already said. I mean, what can you do? You're gonna get mad, and what is it gonna change things instantly on the court? No, So he's probably just, what? Let's just get through this damn game and get me on the damn plane. I want a bottle of wine. And I don't want to talk to no one. Wake me up when we get there. That's one of those nights. So before we go ahead and end the show, where can they go ahead and reach you, Jonas Clark, and talk all things sports, Spurs, and yes, Cleveland Browns?
and Joe, don't forget Commanders. I'm so glad they talk about the AAF if you want to go there.
Shout out.
Or the XFL.
The XFL, I'm still bitter a bit yet towards that league. Of course, we're diving into baseball season, which in San Antonio is another season. Guys, we do have the SA Missions in town. So,
AKA the Puffy Tacos.
The Puffy Tacos for one day. For one day, I think it's May 22nd is National Puffy Taco Day.
Yeah.
So one day they're going to be the Puffy Tacos. I think they're bringing back the Flying Chanclas for the rest of the Copa de la División series throughout the rest of the over the course of the season. But really excited to kind of get out there. So if you want to talk anything there, at Jark Clonus on Twitter, of course, got pieces that I contribute and share there for Project Spurs and the Project Spurs Network. On the Austin Spurs, where we've been seeing a lot of these guys kind of get their development and their time. Keldon doesn't come out and look the way he does this evening without the time that he spent up there. So look for stories. And we are getting ready, guys. Kind of fun news to launch a podcast with regarding the Austin Spurs. It's the I believe we're calling it Forever Toros, and we're going to be doing our first episode this week. So be on the lookout for that from Project Spurs Network.
Cool. Looking forward to that, Jonas. I'll definitely be listening and sharing that on social media. So, Steven, where
Thanks.
can they reach you and talk about all things sports? And one of the things that we need to say is that Steven covers local San Antonio sports here, which is a great follow
Yes.
because
Everything.
if you want to know
Everything.
about the Rampage, then the season that they have left here in San Antonio FC, UIW football, Steven's your guy. So where can they reach you, Steven?
Yes, as you said, Joe, I am your guy. I'm your guy for everything. I'll get to that in a second. But you guys can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and Facebook at @TheStephen_. As you said, Joe, for the Project Spurs Network, I'm covering everything from UTSA football, UIW football, SAFC soccer, which starts in exactly 2 weeks, and I'm very excited, as you can tell. You have San Antonio Rampage, who their season, sadly, is going to be ending. Yes, teardrop. Yes, for them, they return home from their road trip on Friday, and you guys can follow my coverage on there. I said I'm a man of everything. Well, I also cover TV news, entertainment, doing UK news, Australia, UK, USA TV news, and I just entered into the political field. I'm going to be covering the 2020 political race. You guys can follow me. Yeah, it'll be fun. You guys can follow me over there, and it should be a lot of fun talking sports, politics, and TV. I'm going to be a very busy man from now until November, so it should be fun.
Yeah, it should be fun. So make sure you follow both Jonas and you also follow Steven. And make sure you also go in, like we said, check out all the great coverage of your local sports here in San Antonio at theprojectspursnetwork.com. And for all things Spurs related, make sure you check out the Project Spurs website at projectspurs.com. So for Steven Anderson, I'm Joe Garcia, and thank you guys for watching another episode of the Spurs Takeover. We greatly appreciate all the comments, the shares, and just you commenting here. We greatly appreciate you guys. We can't do this without you. So with that said, we'll go ahead and talk to you guys later, and spread the love, stop the hate, and be kind. We're out. Peace.